turn on this light to see if I can't help a bit more to get some more light on our subject. Almost completely drowned out. Okay, this is John checking. Yes, we're home today. We're about to attend a workshop known as Genius Network. Not the subject of our message today, though. From where does grit come in our life? Let's just start out with our story. Another mob hit, and this time it got your Uncle Willie. Well, Uncle Willie was my father's boss. His name was Willie Moretti. My father worked in some gambling joints in New Jersey. My father's income went from here to here. And what's the response to it? Well, in his case, he got bitter instead of better. He got kind of angry and resentful. He was offered several other business opportunities, and for whatever reason, he decided not to go down that path. So we went back to being a spot welder. There's nothing wrong with being a spot welder. There's nothing wrong with knowing how to set up machines. It's just that when he was doing it, he didn't make very much money, which didn't please him and, of course, lowered our standard of living in terms of our household. What did my mom do instead? Well, she decided to get a job, develop some skills within the restaurant industry, and eventually she managed the grill part of a wonderful restaurant and bar, which is still very much in business today, about 70 years later, known as the Crow's Nest. If you're ever in Hackensack, Crow's Nest is a great place to go visit. But getting back to grit for just a second. How did my brother and I respond to this big drop in income? Well, Ronald is in the Hall of Fame of the Equitable as one of their top salespeople. I am doing lots of really wonderful work thanks to the God-given gifts and talents and development of those talents that we had. And we both are extravagantly determined people. What gave birth to that grit? Well, when you realize at an early age, and we're talking 3 years old and 18 months in his case, when you get used to being independent, self-starting, and having to kind of fend for yourself in so many different ways, you develop a skill set, you develop determination, you realize it depends on you, the individual. Now, yes, I pray on a regular basis. Yes, I believe in Jesus. Yes, I go to church on a regular basis. Yes, I write checks to church and other charities, particularly the Dallas Food Bank, since so many people are hungry and out of work. But it gives you a sense of determination. It gives you a sense of, okay, I'm here. I want to be here. How do I get from here to there? One of the ways you can do this, in addition to having a lot of determination, is talk to people who are actually doing what you'd love to be doing. Honest to God, when I was a brand new financial advisor way back in 1988, I went around interviewing a bunch of successful older financial advisors who are in their 60s and 70s and asked them to tell me their story. I suggest you go out and find folks who are doing what you'd love to be doing, hang out with them, become their new best friend, find out what you can do to help them with your own special talents, and then determine if that's something you really want to be when you grow up. I'll give you an example. We're having some work done in our house and having some sod and what have you put in, which is great. Also have some stuff around our house that really shouldn't be there. That could generate some coping opportunities with water seepage and the like, and we're having that removed. When the person started removing that stuff, he discovered a whole bunch of compost basically around the house, which means the removal and resealing process is going to be a lot different than he first thought. Let's translate that into everyday language for you. Commonly, we'll read a book or go to a course, and then we'll go out and actually implement. In other words, take action, like I'm doing right now with YouTube, actually making speeches to go ahead and get better at doing it, discovering how I talk properly so you can actually hear me, and occasionally just fading away where you can't hear a darn thing I'm saying unless I speak up. The other day I listened to Dr. Cialdini, Robert Cialdini, talk about his 7 laws of influence. And the last one he mentioned, he just came up with after about 30-something years of further research with lots of statistics and studying it to verify it, was a sense of community and connection. There are those of us who like wearing these little hats, because you can slide into your car and not get your hat knocked off. And a million years ago, when I drive sports cars, this was a really handy hat to have. Now I drive a slightly bigger car, but still a convertible. I still like wearing these hats because they stay on your head. And some folks can identify with this, and some folks think it's just so silly. Those of us who enjoy these hats together. Those of you who don't enjoy the hats, you don't enjoy them together. It's that simple. If we have a sense of community, for instance, you can see a lot of TCU stuff around our house because I went to Texas Christian University. Therefore, I have a certain affinity when I see somebody go Frogs or Fear the Frog. And when they see me in a TCU hat or TCU sweatshirt, I get that as well in terms of, hey, another TCU graduate, how fun. Or another person who sent their kids to TCU. That's another story. But grit, you discover what it is you want to be when you grow up. You line up the resources to go in that path. You get some experience to go into that field of study, into that field of expertise. You discover if you actually enjoy doing it, if you actually have a talent for it, and if people respond to you in a positive sort of way after a while, that you're actually making a path for yourself. And you line up additional resources, all along the way to help guide you, to help strengthen you, to help take care of the blind spots that we all have. We read, we implement, we hang out with the smartest people we can. We pick their brains, they pick our brains. We share information back and forth, and we do our best to be developing skills that are worth implementing. The only way I know to do that is to actually get up off the couch, unless you're a person who tests couches, and go do something with our lives, with your life individually. Each and every person makes a difference in life. Right now, my wife Susie is teaching yoga. Why? Well, she enjoys stretching, she enjoys being physically fit, and she's an inspiration to our neighbors who, just like everybody else, including me, need to periodically stretch, exercise, have a sense of community in terms of lots of different people in the same class. Soon they're going to be opening up the Plano Senior Center, now called the Sam Johnson Center for Recreation. Why is that a big deal? People are starting to get back out of the house now that the CDC has said, hey, if you've been inoculated, gotten your vaccine, your 2 shots or 1 shot, you can now leave the house. You don't have to wear a mask anymore unless you're in an airplane, in a bus, or some other very crowded environment, or if the person running that business decides you just have to have a mask on. We know some stores that do, we know some stores that don't, and we're just anxious to see what the recovery process from the masking of individuals will be. But let's get back to grit. Grit is the ability to realize that to get good at almost anything, you have to kind of sort of grind your way to it. Practicing, proper practice, whether it's fingering guide on a keyboard to make sure that I've got my fingers in the right place to hit the right notes in the right form, in the right timing, in the right smack in terms of volume. Translation. You get some coaching, which we call teaching, and then you practice. Then you listen to folks who really know how to play. And then you practice some more, and you practice and practice and practice. And eventually, I can tell you from personal experience, you improve, you get better at it. You discover that no matter how good at anything you get, you can always get better at it still, and you keep working at it. Same is true what we do for a living. We give financial advice. We've done this for, God bless America, since 1988, getting paid for it. And as a little Sea Scout way back in New Jersey, just because I had a great interest in helping people figure out what they wanted to do, giving a path to getting there, and then doing lots of calculations to do a mathematical proof in terms of how you get from here now to where. This is John Checky. If you want more information, please check us out at Checky Financial. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your story. And we have a book on Amazon called Spend Time and Save Money. Highly recommend taking a look at it. It's also available on Kindle for only $2. you can have some fun and still have money while you're reading this book. This is John Checky. Look forward to seeing you sooner and later.